Welcome also from my side. So just to give you some context, as Diana already mentioned, we're starting today with a broad overview of what the BlueSpice Galaxy is, what we thought about when we developed it, and especially also what the concepts and conceptions are that kind of built into this new product line that we're going to launch soonish in the soon future. So just to give you a quick overview of what to expect today, we're going to start in a broader context. I'm going to talk about how knowledge management for organizations matters nowadays and also has changed over time. We're going to talk about knowledge management tools and platforms, and also what modern knowledge management platforms need to deliver nowadays. This is also the point where I will introduce the BlueSpice Galaxy, how it answers all of these queries and important contexts. And the final point will be a quick outlook on what to expect in the upcoming weeks, where we will have more of these webinars, so-called Galaxy Deep Dives. Let us dive right in and start with knowledge management and why it matters today. Everybody knows the situation. An organization has a ton of knowledge all over the place. It's in the heads of people, it's in different tools. We create more and more knowledge, more and more content, but we also tend to distribute it across a lot of different systems. And this is kind of where we lose the value of knowledge in an organization, as it is only valuable in as far as it can be used again and again by the people who work there. So the main challenge nowadays is basically how do we structure knowledge that it is available to humans, that it is available to systems who might support humans in their daily work, and that it is also up to date. One important shift here is to look at knowledge no longer as only a resource that is available to the organization, but really consider it a competitive advantage now. So in the past, we have seen that knowledge has been mainly a background consideration, and now we need to really consider the new trends that have arisen and how we can take knowledge and use it to our advantage. The trends in knowledge management are, as I've already mentioned, that knowledge is growing faster and faster. At the same time, expectations and requirements are also rising. We're thinking about compliance issues here. It's about accountability. It's about the quality of the knowledge. So people are expected to respond and work faster. We want to be very easily able to share the knowledge that we have. And we also want to ensure that the knowledge that is in our organizations is preserved, especially expert knowledge. AI, in many ways, is an additional factor here that has shown maybe also where the gaps have been in the past. We used to produce knowledge only for human consumption, or mainly at least, and now we see this new trend that AI systems are used to support the humans. In many ways, it already helps us work faster and also share our knowledge much easier. But we have also seen that AI needs reliable, up-to-date, and especially structured information to work properly. So this is another requirement when we talk about knowledge management and how it can be used as a strategic business asset. What has been the evolution of knowledge management in the past when looking at organizations? We started out with a very document-oriented approach to it. So we were able to preserve the information, to have it in one place, maybe use it as a document repository. But the downside of this way of managing knowledge was, and still is, that we create siloed or isolated knowledge. It only exists in this one place. Not everybody has access to it. Not everybody might be able to find the knowledge. The next step that we've seen was the introduction of wikis, especially in organizations, with the main benefit of now being able to easily share the knowledge that we have in our organizations. So it's a collaborative approach to working together. The updating and the process of updating information is now shared across teams so that it's much easier to maintain all of the knowledge. So we create continuously evolving content, but the big downside of wikis as we see them now is scalability. It's at some point we see There are clear problems when we talk a lot about governance of large amounts of information, and also how can we structure these masses of knowledge in one place, in one wiki. And this is kind of where we are right now, looking at knowledge platforms and what they bring to this discussion. So here we're talking about enterprise knowledge management platforms. And this is kind of the place where we try to turn knowledge into a connected enterprise resource, right? So it becomes available to everybody. We're moving away from the idea that knowledge are based in folders or that there's a hierarchical understanding of knowledge, and instead move to this idea of viewing and understanding knowledge as an interconnected network. So what are, based on these discussions, the requirements for modern knowledge platforms? They first and foremost must provide orientation. Orientation so that I as a user can easily find the information, but also that I intuitively know where to put the information if I want to add something to the discussion. This brings us to the next big requirement. It must enable collaboration. This is one of the big learnings that we've seen when we look at wiki systems. It's much easier, much better to maintain modern and up-to-date knowledge for the organization if it is used in a collaborative approach and you do not have just one or two people actively working on maintaining the information and knowledge that is in an organization. The downside of this is, of course, that we cannot always be sure if the knowledge we have in our systems is up to date. So this is the next big requirement. We need to ensure that our knowledge platforms build trust in the knowledge that is in there. We need quality management tools and processes to ensure that we can verify the correctness of the information in our systems, and also, of course, ensure that all of the outside requirements that we see, compliance issues, are represented in our systems. Finally, we also need to ensure that modern knowledge platforms unlock knowledge intelligently. So it's not just about making sure that the search finds the information that you need, but also that we can work smarter and not only harder. So we want to ensure that AI systems can work with the knowledge that is in there in a safe and easily maintainable way. Now that you hopefully all understand the requirements of modern knowledge platforms, let's look at what we have, what we are about to launch, namely the BlueSpice Galaxy. This is a combination of a lot of our learnings and best practices that we had over the years, while at the same time trying to look at the trends we see in the market space and the new requirements coming towards the organizations we're working with, and also to this idea of knowledge management as a whole. Now, I will give you a very broad overview over the 4 points that I've already mentioned as the key requirements and how they are addressed in the BlueSpice Galaxy. This is not going to be a very deep dive, despite the name of the series, but we will introduce a lot of issues that come up throughout the talks in the course of the seminar series. But first, let's look at BlueSpice Galaxy and this idea of orientation. So how do you provide orientation in this new reiteration of the BlueSpice product? Historically, we had mainly one central wiki where everybody would go in, share the knowledge. We would maybe work with namespaces to ensure that some information might be removed or isolated for specific teams so that only those people who should and do have access to them see them. But the main issue here is scalability, as I've already mentioned. To address this issue and to make it much more intuitive to work within a larger wiki system, we have now introduced this idea of a central wiki with a lot of sub-wikis. So the central wiki is the main entrance into the wiki environment. This is the place where people log into. It is the place where shared information that is important for all of the organization is placed and put. And this is also the jumping off point to smaller sub-wikis, which can be a wide range of different use cases. It can be teams-based, it can be project-based, it can be its own dedicated space for information management system processes, or any other potential issues that might come up here. So this is kind of one way where we provide orientation. There will be a deeper dive into what this actually looks like in the second talk of this series. Then we, at the same time, want to keep this idea of collaborative work. This is an example of what you can do when you're in a team space. Here, the HR example. So a team knows exactly where to put the information that is important to them. They have their meeting minutes in a dedicated space in the HR wiki. They know where to put their onboarding materials, where they might need to share spreadsheets, where they have their own internal processes that only apply to the HR team, or a range of other important team-specific information. This makes it very easy for the members of this team to know where to put the information. At the same time, this very global thinking and open idea of the BlueSpice Galaxy allows other members of the organization to also look at those areas as long as they are allowed to look at it. I'm specifically thinking about onboarding information. So a new member, of course, wants to know where to go if they are new to the company, what information they might need. But at the same time, the HR team is very likely the team to maintain this information. So putting it in the sub-wiki of the HR team allows the people working on this information to maintain it very easily, to not have to worry about this. And at the same time, people coming new into this can read the information that is important to them. So collaboration is enabled, and we also see that these processes allow to create different cross information spreading, so to speak, in an organization, right? So one team might be very easily able to find out what another team is working on, and there might be synergies that can develop out of these different patterns of knowledge sharing. We also need to ensure that the information is maintained and that we can have reliable information in there. We have looked at all of our approval processes and quality management tools and reworked them for the Galaxy. The functionality, for those of you already familiar with BlueSpice, is still very similar, but there are some changes to the technical setup, and there's also a bit of a different styling. So on the one hand, we maintain this for the human, so to speak, and for the human side. At the same time, we also changed our metadata system. Historically, we were aiming specifically at making it very available to humans. This is still, of course, a major concern, but now we also consider the importance of AI and making sure that the metadata is very easily accessible to AI systems and can be reused in those contexts as well. We are changing our metadata concepts and structures underneath it. So now we're working with MediaWiki in the BlueSpice Galaxy, which is much more easily connectable to the AI context here and make the information reusable in those contexts. It is also much easier to maintain for people working with metadata and ensuring that the information is up to date. Finally, we also want to ensure that, as I've already mentioned, we can really unlock all of the potential of knowledge in a reusable way. One key thing here is AI and the ability to reuse the metadata and also other information in chats, in chatbots, in other contexts, in the search that is now much more advanced in many ways as it used to be. And at the same time, we also introduce other ways of visualizing important information and data to make it accessible for the humans as well. And this is kind of the final big point that we're looking at here. So what do I want you to take away from this short introduction to the BlueSpice Galaxy? Firstly, I hope you remember that knowledge has become much more complex, and we really, really need to think about how we can change our approach to knowledge management as organizations. I hopefully have showed you that knowledge management is evolving, and we are kind of moving towards a much more broader understanding of creating connected knowledge compared to the document repositories that we were used to in the past. And finally, I hopefully have teased how BlueSpice Galaxy will help you with all of these challenges that lay ahead for all organizations, or some might already be deeply in. As I've mentioned, this is just a broad introduction. Here is a list of the upcoming webinars where we will address all of these talked about issues in much more detail. We will start with a very detailed look at how knowledge can be structured in the Galaxy on September 2nd with a live demo of the new Galaxy Alpha and kind of show you how you can navigate here. Then we will move on to looking at visualization possibilities in the Galaxy, and of course also talk about AI as one of the key issues in another upcoming seminar. Another big point that we have seen, or an issue that has come up repeatedly, is migration and how we can ensure that knowledge is migrated securely, which will be also a deep dive at a later point. And finally, we will look at the new metadata management, as well as the knowledge quality tools that are provided in the Galaxy. I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you got a great overview over the Galaxy product.